Let me see here. I think we should be good now.
Let me see.
Let me see here.
Updating the page.
There we go.
Yes,
we
here we
now.
go. Nice.
So it'll take
Cool.
just a quick second to catch up.
Yeah.
Let me see here. To
Updating
Drew's screen.
page.
There we go.
Yes,
we
here we
now.
go. Nice. Just
so
checking if
just a quick second
people can hear.
To catch up.
Yeah.
Let me see here.
Swiss, can you hear the sound?
There we go.
Yes, hear the voice? Here we go. Let me see if I... Just 1 second. I'm checking now. Yes, it worked. Nice. We are ready. So, Josh, wanted to introduce again?
Yes. There's some viewers here, so thank you everybody for tuning in today. What we're doing is we're kind of just doing some live stream build sessions to where we can kind of take people through the process of modeling and all the way to the gamification in Unity, and then putting that on other platforms such as Spatial and whatnot. My name is Josh. I'm part of a community of builders called MetaDyn, and I'm here with a good friend, Smers. Smers?
Hello. Hi everyone. So yeah, I'm Smers. I'm a virtual reality designer. Today we start with a new project for creators and for who want to be a part of this new world, like metaverse and Unity creation and developing. So we are also in the theater. If you wanted to be in pseudo live, not real, but in the metaverse, we are in my theater to see the event. So yeah, let's go.
And today we have a special guest, Drew Gilbert. Drew, exactly. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself. I'll probably mess it up pretty bad.
No worries. So hello everyone. My name is Drew Gilbert.
Hi, Drew.
And I'm a real architect. I'm located in Dubai, and I work for a firm called OBMI. And I'm super excited about the metaverse space. I've been studying it for a while. But Smers and Josh reached out to me with a project idea that they're working on and need a bit of some architect experience. And so they reached out to me, and they were initially inspired by this idea of the Cupertino Apple headquarters. And we're going to basically do a modeling exercise today to show you a software that you can use. It's a bit more simpler than in a Blender, but it's a very common software that architects use. And so that will be what we're exploring today, both from high level of how the software works, but also trying to design something within like an hour time frame.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. So I want to say something. This project is have the goal to make one space. Is a space for metadynamic, the project of Josh Garrett. So we want to make a lives about every step that is needed to make from scratch your space, your environment, and we will use Unity and specific the Spatial Creator Toolkit. And so enjoy these incredible guys that he will work today to show us how to use this amazing software.
All right, shall I get started, guys?
Sure.
Perfect. So
Yes.
for anyone who doesn't know yet, SketchUp is a free software. And it starts off with this very simple toolbar on the side, and you would be surprised how much you can do with just this simple toolbar. In fact, everything I'm going to do today is only using this toolbar, so I'm really showing how easy it is, but also how flexible it can be.
Nice.
And as I'm going along, if there's any questions, feel free to ask. But because of the time frame, within 1 hour, I've got a few things set up, and I can explain as we're going along. So when they reached out to me for this idea of the Cupertino headquarters here, it was basically this idea of the campus and then this kind of landscape space in the middle that was very kind of fluid and open. And so the idea is that essentially you have an indoor space that's for all of the showcasing and the elements, whether it be avatars or sort of unique elements. And then the campus space will be all for like showcase and tutorials, and even I think there's even going to be like a racetrack. So the idea here started off as a section, and it's a very simple section, but I can kind of show you exactly what we're thinking. So we know it's going to be round, so our floor plan is round, and we have a decent amount of space of roughly like 100 meters diameter. And then the building itself is just going to rotate around this circle, and then we'll have a dynamic landscape that can be adapted in further videos. So in terms of how SketchUp works, it's essentially you draw lines, and then as you draw the lines, you eventually have a face. And for anyone who's new to SketchUp, they think that maybe they can just keep expanding and expanding. But the thing about this particular method is like the sticky method, so it's very difficult to edit. So there's a ability to group something. Be triple clicking something, right click and make group.
Nice.
Groups, when you edit one, doesn't edit the other. So if you want to create something that will be edited many times, whether it's some sort of detail, a mullion, or any sort of architectural element, or any kind of element, you'll make it into something called a component. And this component can be named, doesn't have to be, but I know that in Blender, if you name it, it will be easier to find it. So if I make a component really quick, you will see that if I edit this one, it will edit the other one. And this is just the basics, so always modeling with this type of mindset.
So a component is like a prefab in Unity, I'd guess, or something like that. Cool.
And then one last thing, say you've already placed the components, but you want to make it unique. You literally right click and you make unique. So now this one is no longer the same as the other ones. So that's the basics for how to model. Once you get these things down, the rest is quite simple. There's an ability to revolve, which is basically just taking a profile or a pathway and then revolving it. So we'll be revolving as well. And then you have scale and offset. So really within all of this, you have all of the shapes, squares, circles, and so on. But it's really important also to mention that since we're in a metaverse space, the circle itself is made up of a series of polygons. So if I type 12, I will have a 12-sided circle. And this is quite useful because when you're trying to reduce the number of polygons, you can reduce it here quite easily. So when I made this circle, I thought the least amount of facets required or edges, but still not to make it too faceted, but was around 120. And if in the future when we import it into Unity, if we need to reduce it, it's quite easy to reduce. Okay, so regarding the floor plan, it's quite simple. We have the circle ring building, and then we'll have the landscape space here. In the middle, we'll have like an amphitheater space where there can be a screen for tutorials. Alright, so if there's no questions yet, I will just get started. Essentially, I'm just gonna take this ring, paste it, and I'm gonna use it, start to revolve some of these architectural elements. And you'll see that very quickly we can start to build a space.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
it's
just like
so
that.
fast.
Yeah. So I'm
Wow.
actually going to take all of these elements, and this is our section. We're going to revolve around this face. So we have all of this, and we just go like that. So all of that's revolved now. And we just do the same for the rest. So this is going to be like a back wall. Then we have the floor, which I'm going to include some glass into it. Alright, so now, because nothing is touching, it's fine, but I'm going to make all of these into a group. And I'm just triple clicking and that will select everything.
Okay.
And what else do we have here? Make group. Okay, so that is part of our section.
Wow.
This is a bit of the interior space. So
Wow.
underneath here, underneath this wall, is going to be glass. Up here will be glass. And then facing the courtyard will be glass. And then I'll also introduce some glass in the floor to make it kind of interesting moments. And then we'll get to the landscaping. So for the glass, what I'm going to do is I'll first take these mullions. And we don't have to have mullions, by the way. It's the metaverse. We can do anything we want. But I'm going to take these mullions. Paste them. Actually, I will paste them into, again, this profile. Basically just need something that's circular anywhere on the ground. And we'll just start to array those by using the follow me tool. Extremely easy. And then we'll make those into a group. And here will be a group. So far, fairly easy. Now we get to the glass. Now the glass right now is just line work. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw a line here. And it's going to make that a face. I'll select the faces. Bring them back to here. And then after I array it, I will just take the front face because that's all I need. So I will copy that, delete the rest, paste. And this one, because we only need the front face, right? Because right now it's thick. It has the full thickness.
Okay.
So I copy that, triple click, delete, paste, make group. Okay, so maybe now is a good opportunity to talk about materials. So right now everything is pure white, and you'll notice you have this white and blue. What this means in SketchUp is if I reverse this face, this is facing the opposite direction. And when it comes to modeling and gaming engines, you want to always have the white face facing out. So in this case, I will just select the face and reverse face. Now, if I had a material applied, I wouldn't know if it was facing outward or inward. So there is this toolbar here called Styles, and you'll see monochrome, and it will essentially show you what is facing out and what is facing in. So that's just some key to note there. But regarding materials, so I will select this face. I will go to SketchUp materials, which it has a decent amount of materials. So we'll just use the basic ones for now. And I'll just select this gray material and click. And I have a glass material. And when you have this in Blender or Unity, you will see this exact name, translucent glass gray, which will help you if you're going to change the material later on. I was going to make a custom material like this one I have on the ground. I'll show you how to do that. You just have to select the face that you want the material to be on. Go to import. I'll just go to my desktop, grab this random travertine material here. And before I go, I forgot that it always sets up. When you first open SketchUp, it will not be set to texture, so make sure you have it set to texture. And then you will be able to draw the size manually, like so. And it will fill the rest. And so if you want to edit this texture, right click, position, and you will see how the texture fits within your space. But again, you'll most likely be editing textures in Blender or Unity or something like this. So that's the basics of textures so far. If I need to copy this texture, I just go to the eyedropper tool, select my group, paste it, and you'll notice because it's a circle, it's going to be like that, but in Blender this can be solved. So that's
Yeah.
quick textures. Now let's go back to our section here. So now we have the singular glass. If I want to do the floor glass, let's select this. Here, paste it. And I'm gonna swing inside the building because I can't actually, well, I guess I could. Nope, see, it's not gonna, okay, it will. So you might have to swing inside of the building. SketchUp works in a way that where you point is where you go. So wherever your mouse is, that's exactly where you're gonna move towards. And then if I need to orbit to get outside or inside, it will help you from getting stuck. Because sometimes you'll be like in this space, and then you'll notice as I'm zooming, it can take a bit of time. So it's good to also just know how to orbit and get out of there. But it's still very easy.
Yeah. And
in
the theater, sorry, Drew. In the theater, we have a question from Cyrus. His question is, why would one use SketchUp as opposed to Blender?
Okay, so here's the thing. What's funny is architects use SketchUp. There's no limitations. We can use Revit, Rhino, anything, Cinema 4D, doesn't matter. The software is not the end all be all. It's just a tool, and architects typically use SketchUp, so that's just why I'm just showing another way. It can be done the same way in Blender, but this is like let's say a slightly easier tool than Blender, and it's good to show flexibility as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes. And he asked also about the texture, the material in Unity. Like also it's better to add texture material in Unity. I can answer to Cyrus. Yeah, you can use it's the same as Blender, you know. Of course, in Unity you need to make a better effect, also a normal map about one texture. But if they normally we create a normal map, I think we will create in a future episode. So it's the same normally, and I can see that is very fast.
Yes.
And normally, for me, for doing this kind of things, I'm using more time. You know, and I'm not doing this kind of things because I'm not a professional architect, but you know.
And a lot of times it's not either or, right? It's maybe SketchUp does some things, and then
Exactly.
Blender is the second part of what you're doing to kind of give you a head start on it.
So as architects, like sometimes if I'm doing crazy organic forms and shapes like this, I would use something like Rhino, and that's a very flexible software. But in this case, I just wanted to show that you can do, let's say, complex forms also in SketchUp in a very quick time.
And SketchUp already has, is it still called the 3D warehouse, where you could get a lot of free assets and really get a head start on some things.
So for those that don't know, it's a decent, let's say, place if you want to grab models. I don't rely on it personally as an architect. Sure. I usually create everything custom, but it is there, and it will allow you to maybe speed up. So everything so far has been revolved. I have the glass underneath the display wall with a slight chamfer there. We have the skylight coming in. The full wraparound glass that you're going to be able to see the full courtyard, where you have the glass here. And then I was thinking that this can be water, so if we just go to landscaping, or not landscaping, water, you can use this transparent water. So I was thinking, like, as you're walking here, you'll be able to see a bit of water.
Very cool.
And then we also have our column here. So let me just take our column details, paste them, make a group, and then I'm going to make a circle that is not too many polygons. So yeah, maybe say 20. And you'll notice it's like green or red or blue. It's a bit confused. If you just hit up, it will force it to be z-axis. And then I'm going to cut this in half so that we can revolve around our pathway. There's the top. There's the bottom. And I took some liberty here because it is the metaverse, so we don't have to
Yeah, exactly. No engineer.
Yeah. So this column, I'm thinking, will be rotated 8 times. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into this group, make another group, so that when I copy it and array it, it's already within that group. So let's say I go here, divide by 3, and I already have some columns. Those, find my axis. I will admit I am decently speedy, so you may not be as quick at first, but of course it's quite easy to learn. So that's what I'm thinking here. So the idea is that there's roughly 8 columns taking you around, and the spaces, if I go to my floor plan, it looks like those, the guides, that's right. So within these, you can have kind of 4 additional axes to additional spaces. So you can either cut the water, or you can go through it, or something. To beyond, and you could essentially have the racetrack go out and beyond and so on.
Nice.
So that's the building so far. I still have some details to do. So let's say I need to actually create a, let's say a mullion system for this glass. I'm just going to delete this face because it's in the way. So my mullion is going to look like this. And I don't need to actually array it or revolve it, so I'll paste in place. And this one I'll make into a component because I will be using it many times. Because it's components, I can actually leave it as is for now. But I want to actually make it a component inside, so I go inside the component, then I can make it a group. And I'll just exit that area. I'm gonna make a decent amount of these. Let's say 20 of them. Yeah, that seems about right. First, I'm just making the piece, and then what I'll do is I'll detail it in a second.
Nice.
So we have 3 of those.
And I have a question, Drew.
Yep.
There is a way to see how many verticals you're using in Sketchfab, because normally I have this problem when I'm making something in Blender, because when I'm importing after in Unity, what we will make is not like a video game, normal video game, but is a WebGL. It means that you have some limitation, like for the texture and also for so.
Okay, so I just made. I was supposed to make this into a component, but it's fine. So yeah, to answer your question, you're asking how many vertices there are. If we go to model info, you will see that there's 43,000 edges so far, which if you divide by that would be divided by 4 would be 10,000 faces, or 16,000 faces. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is very important point because we can stay in the right level or a little bit up, but you can see when you do the process. This is very, very important.
Yes. So divide by 20.
Many of our listeners are probably familiar with spatial. That's 500K on that. So the more you can do that in the modeling, the less you'll have to go and do additional Blender work and estimate or whatever.
So here I've made the component, so now you can see all of those are editable. So now I can expand it, do any sort of additional details as necessary. So maybe it's like do this way and point you that way. We have essentially this like radial mullion that goes all the way around. It's not required, but it does add a bit of interest to the model.
Very nice.
And let's see, what else do we want to do? So I'm assuming there will be like a teleportation of some sort that takes you inside, so we don't necessarily have to do a stair or elevator of any sort, but of course it's up to us. So for this, what I was thinking is this is water, and then we have like a ground, and we have a detail here. So the water is kind of this scoop or reflection pool. And then in later episodes, we can make an infinity water plane, and essentially this water will just bleed into the infinity water plane. And then I'm thinking we can have a berm that takes you a bit lower, so you start down here, but then as you explore, you find the water, and so on. And then that berm also takes you to the amphitheater, so it's not like revealed to you immediately, you kind of have to explore and find it. So let's start with the water plane here. We already have our water top piece. I'm thinking I can make this into a group and paste this detail here. Also make it a group, but I'm going to extract this line here. No worries, we can just revolve from here. Right, so that's our water plane that's going all the way around, and we will also do the same for this detail. First, I want to make this into a group. Just gonna select everything, delete, hit, paste in place. Then we come back here. I need to bring this back. Yeah.
I love that cross-section thing that you're working with to show that, you know, that angle of the depth along the way.
The section?
Yeah, the section.
Yep. So I'm just gonna bring this back and delete everything except for our edge. Just want to keep that so we can revolve everything around that. And then we'll take this and this, these two slopes, put them in, make them into groups, take our edge, in. So here, the question is if we reached a point where we needed to reduce this quantity. Right now this is based off of, I think it was like 40. So if we need, we can essentially remove this face, and yeah, it was at 40. We can make it 15, for example, to reduce the... So quite simple and quite easy to control. So I'll just do this one as well. Now that one is 15, and we'll do the same here. This is just a simple arc. And you'll notice it created a face at the top. We can just delete that. Let me delete this one as well. Okay. Now we can revolve. And this one as well. We have this kind of interesting courtyard now that when you're actually down here, the human scale is... It's always good. SketchUp comes with an automatic human scale, so very easy to just move him around. And then we can orbit our view to see the guy. So you'll be like within this bowl, right? And then you get floating columns. And then if you walk up to the top of this hill, then you get the water. So it's a threshold. And now we will rotate our ground. We add our revolver. Select the revolver. And we revolve the ground. So that's what we have so far. And then for the amphitheater, so this is our space so far. We also got to revolve the eye.
Wow. Pretty easy, like 30 minutes. You made it. Amazing.
Yeah, so now we
Why did it take Apple like 3 years or whatever?
Yeah. we need to call them. Maybe they will hire us for the next one. Yeah, so it's like this overflow
Oh,
here.
there is it.
So the water could, in theory, be a waterfall, but again, it's not required. But I'm imagining that this whole thing is infinity, like water. So you're like within this floating thing, right? One thing to note about SketchUp, there's no such thing as like a reflective material. So like if you wanted mirror or metal or anything like that, it wouldn't be viewable until you get to Blender or some other software. But you can always, yeah.
Good to know.
Okay, so let's say I'm gonna, I was thinking to make a berm inside as well, and then the seats are kind of just floating within the berm. So first I will create that, grab that, and then we no longer need that. So this would be like a grass mount, and you'll see that it's very easy to do grass. I mean, there's nothing insanely special about it, but it's a good starting material, and it's named so that you can find it easily. So far it's a bowl, and then I'm gonna cut out some areas, but I think we can change the detail of this stair a bit so that it's a bit more revealing the grass. So let's just take these, multiply by 5, multiply by 4. Looks like we have an edge issue here. So what I will do is I will just take this, exit the group, put it into a group, open the group, and then just make these times. I just need my revolver again. It's like, okay, there we go. So we have our steps, but I don't want to go full. So I will take this line and this line. You'll see what I'm doing in just a second. So I'm essentially only going to revolve this portion. So alright, so I'll do this 5 times, and it will only be that part. So it's a half amphitheater. And then once we unhide the view, you'll see the grass underneath the seat by a little bit.
Cool.
Get a little peek.
Nice.
Okay, so at this point, this is where I reached conceptually, but I'm thinking that let's carve out something. We can have the display. If you guys want it to be curved, we can make curved, but I think it makes more sense to just have a screen that's maybe somewhere here. And you know, in spatial they have just the display, right? And it's floating, so you don't necessarily need to add it here, correct?
Yeah, and we do have new capabilities with a virtual camera that we can now project that onto any surface.
Interesting.
So yeah, it is an option to do like either a curve or whatever. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I was just thinking it could be something as simple as, you know, this. And so you would carve out an entrance on both sides, and then you have your screen something like this. And then the grass and trees and things like this just like fully engulfing this view range, right? So all of this would be trees and things like that. So I'll just leave this as a placeholder, but of course we can detail it later. And then through here, I'm gonna carve out a walkway so that you're not just walking over the berm, but you can essentially cut this out. So let me just detail that out in plan, and then we can. That looks like. So it looks like it extended farther than we anticipated, which is fine. If I wanted to detail this, oh, I see what it did. Okay. So this went to there.
Ah.
There we go. So if you double click, it will remember the dimension that you scaled, which is a very fast trick. So
A
yeah.
simple double click. Wow.
Exactly. I know. So when people say why SketchUp, well, there's some reasons, you know.
Exactly.
Won't give all the secrets, but if you use the software for a while, you'll notice you can really fly. So I'm just gonna take this face, paste it, and make a wall here that then can be used to kind of engulf or encase the space. And if I need, I can extend it further to say there. So what I'm thinking is I can create this little arrival. It's a bit more of a, let me do that correctly. Okay, so you'll see this from a side. So when somebody enters in, you know, they're a bit more hidden.
Yeah.
And then I'll just copy this to the other side. And then what we need to do is make some sort of face that will extract So here, here, and the shape's not particularly important. It's just we need something that will fully engulf where we need to cut. Got lost there for a second. And then we can. So another interesting thing, there are ways to mirror, but just to show you that you don't always need to mirror, you can flip along. So for example, if I flip along green, flip along red, flip along blue. Let me see, which one do I need? Should be this way. But yeah, so SketchUp has a lot of plugins, which are very useful. I just, for the sake of this video, I wanted to show you that you can do almost anything without plugins. Being a little bit finicky here. Let me just drop it down. And rotate it. Okay, so we have our extractor. It looks like this needs to move just a bit. And then I'll take this here. And then I'll
you can connect by vertex.
Perhaps, yeah. So I'm just going to intersect face, but notice I'm intersecting face with a group. So once I intersect the face, I can remove. But I'm actually going to do this slightly different, to where I take this up to somewhere, because when I intersect face with model, I don't want it to intersect with every single other thing. Now I can delete these, and you'll see that I have the faces or the line work. I'm going to copy that into my group and just delete all of that information. Now, of course, Boolean can work as well. I'm using only the basic tools at the moment.
Okay.
Now I will make a face here and here. So now we have our berm. Move this face. I'll take it back down to where it was, which was 100 meters. Now, we didn't cut this one, but as you can see, we have line work here, so you can actually uncover this line work by holding Alt on the eraser, and it will literally bring the invisible line work.
Nice.
And now I will delete it. it's up to you whether or not you fill this. I mean, it's one less face, right? But
Sure.
for now, we can fill it. The alts, yep. Put here and here. And delete. We gotta get this line all the way up. So, are there any questions so far?
No, this is great. It seems like it has a lot of nice little shortcuts that I haven't seen. I'm sure other tools do have them in some way, but this seems like it makes it a little bit easier to do this kind of stuff.
Exactly. So this is why I enjoy SketchUp, because you literally can fly. You know, you're not really limited by speed or anything like that. You can just go and you can keep adding details and anything you want. So for example here, oh, looks like my glass face. Oh, that's our section. Okay, so I can turn off the section now. Start cleaning things up. If I wanted this wall to go straight through, we could do that as well. But yeah, this is the space.
Wow.
And just like that. So you can have displays, you can subdivide the rooms if you wanted to. You can see the scale of the human. So another thing to keep in mind is the size of the avatar and the space that you're designing for. So I believe spatial's around, is it spatial, or maybe it was another metaverse, but the height of the avatar should be considered.
I think it's like
Also,
a 2.5 meter max or something, but yeah, people will usually use like a Ready Player Me in their scene to get that little guy in there or something. Not sure exactly how tall that one is.
exactly. I've seen somewhere it was like 1.8, which was a bit odd. Let's see. And I'll share one of my secrets. You'll notice that when I'm modeling, I can hide everything else. This is not readily built in SketchUp. So if you go to where is it? Preferences, shortcuts, and you type hide, you'll see hide rest of model. I just assigned the X key. And this is a magical tool. Like if I'm just working here and I only want to see this and not run, like if you're new to it and like you're running into walls and you're trying to orbit and it's a bit annoying, just hide everything and then you're only working on that specific area. So super useful.
Yeah.
Also, for example, I know it's not useful maybe in let's say Unity or such, but let's say you're working in SketchUp for something else and you want to hide these lines. If you use Control and you can actually essentially hide these lines. Like say you're taking a screenshot and you don't want to see these, you can hide any line you want. You can even hide these ones. I don't recommend it because you'll notice it will start to give this weird defect.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to add materials or anything, or we can leave that for Blender and Unity, right?
Sure, yeah, especially if we're using terrain stuff. Go ahead, Smurf, sorry.
Yeah, I think adding material now is a good way to see how Sketchfab can make the texturing, because normally you have to map your material on the object. So
exactly. So for example, in Blender, you will get the name of the material. So if I put this, for example, color A06, and I go to Blender, it will tell me color A06. So if I wanted this to be metal or some sort of material that is used in the metaverse, you can just name the material anything you want. And this model could be, let's say, it could be a series of somewhat strange colors because it's not going to be the final model, but you'll be able to know what is what. So maybe that's one color and that's another color, or however you want to do it. You can just go through and add all of your textures. So when you export it, they're ready and easily to find.
Very cool.
Yeah. Question for you guys: how important is it to model on the origin? Are you able to move the origin within another software?
Yeah, the origin is so depend, because when you're importing in Unity, you don't have this problem normally. If you have normally when I import something from another program to Blender to make the adjustment or to prepare this model for Unity, I need that the origin is setted for Blender. But when you import in Unity, if the origin is at the center of the Blender, in Unity there is no problem, because you have just to drag and drop the item inside your environment. So normally...
So I'll show you one quick tool. Say you wanted to do berms, okay? If we use this freehand tool, I'm just gonna draw a shape. Maybe that's not the best shape. Let me try it again. Okay, so it's like peanuts, okay? And then I'll finish this one here. And then I'll make it into a group. And then there's this plugin. It's called Soap Bubble. I can generate a soap bubble. I think I have to make it a group.
Yeah. So Cyrus needed like a clarification about the process. Like you can model in SketchUp, then bring into Blender to add textures, edge, and then bring into Unity. This is the question. I can start to answer, but if you want to join. So yeah, you can do both. You can do the model in SketchUp and after add the texture in Blender, but what I understood is you can do also the texturing in SketchUp. I think it's better, for my opinion, to do in SketchUp, and after bring everything into Unity. So Drew, normally your way, what is the best way? Because you did something like that, but with Unreal also. Is the same to Unity. So
Another point is if you do it based on an origin, if you say you exported your main model, the one we designed before, and then you wanted to add this berm later, as long as you have that origin, you'll be able to place easily into the model any modifications that you make along the way.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is just a really kind of somewhat low poly berm that you could have if you wanted. It's just through a plugin called Soap Bubble. It's quite easy to use as well, and it can add these kind of organic blobs within the landscape, so it can kind of add a bit more dynamism. And it's not, I made it to where it's not extremely heavy,
Right.
but yeah. So are we gonna talk about exporting now?
Sure. Yeah, we can go ahead and run into that. I think that's definitely going to be a part that our audience will be interested in.
Sure. So here, I mean, I can just make an entire group if I want. Select it. Very easy. Export 3D model and drop it down to FBX. Then you export, and that's it. So it will take all of these textures, the model, and then you're ready to import it into Blender or any other software.
Nice.
Very cool. Is that an extra thing that you have to add to SketchUp, or is that kind of default within it that you can do the FBX export?
Pretty sure it's default, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure. Yep. So you can see we have various groups, around 25,000 faces here, but within the FBX it's reading it as 32,000. A series of 15 materials, 2 textures, so quite simple.
Nice.
And that's it. That's the process.
And question about exporting, for example, for the water that is on like a circle. So it's possible to export only this water as OBJ?
Yes. So I have my group. So this water, if I hide everything else, you have this. SketchUp, File, Export, 3D Model, and you should have OBJ option right there. Yep.
Yeah,
So,
I think
very cool.
you don't need to go in Blender. I think if you are very good in SketchUp, I think you don't need to use Blender.
So to be honest, so this is the thing. When I was going into spatial and things like this, I only ran into the issue of when I wanted to animate something. You can't actually animate objects in SketchUp. So say if I, for some reason, wanted this entire upper space to kind of undulate up and down, I would have to do that in Blender.
Nice.
If I want to add,
Yeah.
say, metal or something like that, I'd probably have to do it in Blender as well. So there's some reasons, but I would say you could do 95% of all the modeling and everything in SketchUp.
Yeah, and there is another question from Cyrus. If you can talk about the process and the best way to reduce the verticals and faces.
Okay, so
is
the
like
best
if
way
you
to
have
optimize?
Good question.
Yeah,
Honestly,
to optimize, exactly.
it's a bit of forward thinking. So for example, if I knew I was going to use 8 of these, like I already have this whole space mapped out in my mind. I knew it was going to be, you know, a circle. So within the circle, I have the control over the number of sides. I knew that I was going to have roughly 8 of these, so, you know, if they were too heavy, then, you know, it might get complicated. I knew I was going to have these berms, which are somewhat detailed. See, as I double click, because of the face, and then within each face of the circle, it starts to increase. But to optimize this, if I wanted to redo this at a smaller amount, I could easily do that by essentially reducing this number of sides of this arc. So if I said 20 instead of 10 or whatever it was, if I made this my pathway and I orbited something of this form, I'm gonna do this somewhere. Let me just take this up. So I'm gonna go up here and I have this face. And I just need a path. So I take my path and I revolve here. So you'll notice the difference in the number of faces by just understanding that the number of sides and the complexity of your arc. Each one of these is going to be revolved. So there's no like, let's say after you do it, you make it less complicated. It's kind of all at once, but you might be able to optimize it in other software.
Yeah, exactly. Like Blender, in Blender there is a possibility to optimize. I think is not really the best way I'm using for like Avatar or whatever, because it reduces the quality, but it's not totally under your control. And with the modifier, I think we will show this in next episode. But there is the possibility to optimize your space about the verticals.
Perfect. Yep.
Thank you.
It's great to understand the optimizations. Like for example, you know, this faceting here, I wanted to keep it to a minimum, but also be, you know, a bit responsible with the number of polygons.
Yeah, is one of the most important point. But just an advice for my not big experience, I have a little experience, is to be focused on the texture. So the texture is the most important point that can change the experience in your space. If you have a lot of verticals, it's okay. If it's not too much, you can have a space that is very good to go with no lag. It's not easy. But if you have a texture that have like 2K texture, you know, or 4K texture, it will be heavy space just for a texture. This is the concept, the talk that you have to that you need.
Yep. And I'll mention one other thing. So if you go to model info, you'll have something called statistics, and this will allow you to purge any unused aspects. So that will obviously optimize your model a little bit as well. Yep. And the last thing might be relevant is OpenGL. So I have it where it says use maximum texture size. So as I'm modeling, it will show the highest res possible of the texture. If you, for some reason, like I think it's not on by default. So that's just in preferences, OpenGL, and you tick the use maximum texture size.
Wow.
Yep.
Great.
All right.
Amazing.
Well, I look forward to seeing how far this develops moving forward, adding interactivity, activating this space in the courtyard. It's going to be really interesting.
Absolutely, and Drew, I can't thank you enough. This has really been awesome. This seems like an excellent solution for people to sort of quickly get out what's in their head onto something, even just to kind of conceptualize some stuff out. It seems like something that a very, like you said, a beginner can get started with and still have the tools to do some advanced stuff if they want to stay in
100%.
this. So. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
And for our viewers, we are going to continue, as has been mentioned. We're going to continue this next week. We'll be optimizing and bringing this into Unity and start to get things a little bit more familiar. So we look forward to continuing on.
Perfect.
Thank you, Smurs. Thanks, guys.
Very cool. Thank you, Drew. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for everything. So see you next episode.
Until next time.
See you.
Thanks, guys.